Hi everyone, it's Alistair here from AD, Automated Data-Driven Design. I am really delighted to have so many really good speakers today for our session on Revit workflows for architects and BIM managers. We're going to keep it super pacey today to get through as much as possible in the shortest amount of time and give you as much value as possible. I'm going to get Leo and Arvinder to introduce themselves, and then Diana as well. Diana's our special guest today. She's joined us to kind of bring her insight and thoughts to it. So Leo, if I get you to go first, that'd be great.
Sure. Hi, Al. Yeah, I'm Leo. I'm from Architecture PLB. I work in IT and have done for the past couple of decades.
Arvinder?
So I'm Arvinder. I am in Chicago, US. I work for Walker Consultants as an architectural designer and been a designer for the past 6 years. Happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Diana, and I'm an application specialist in AHMM with a background of computational design, but my primary focus now is software used in architecture, so that keeps me busy.
Amazing. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that, and great to have you here. Right, we're going to start with Isker today on Visuals. He's going to introduce himself and go through his software, and then we're going to move on to Yafim from Pele AI, and then Nick will go from D.TO, will go at the end. So we're going to do a quick intro from each one. They're going to do a demo, and we're going to move through all of them first, and then we'll do questions and comments and kind of discussion at the end. I feel like I'm going 100 miles an hour, but Isker, I'm going to pass over to you and yeah, share your screen and show us what you've built.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Isker. I'm originally an architect from Germany. Then at some point went to work in Switzerland with Herzog de Meuron. Got more and more into tech and into coding, and eventually founded my own software company. And now I make Visuals.com because I was very frustrated with the state of data management and data visualization in architecture. And I'd like to show you with like a monster pace again, just like Alistair started out, what visuals can do. So I'm going to share my screen, allow this, and then entire screen, this one. Here we go. All right, there we go. So you see my Revit on the left. Visuals is a little plugin that you can download from the website. And once you have it installed, you can find it in the add-ins tab. And yeah, you can just click on it. It brings up this little connector thing. It opens the browser, establishes a connection. And then once it has loaded, it's ready to go. So it's like a single click setup here. And then you can just follow the instructions here. It says update data, so I'll do that. I'll press update data in this little plugin window on the left. It goes through the model, gets all the data out there, pushes it over to the website, and we can talk about that process and the security of that later on because I think it's an interesting topic to talk about. But yeah, and then without any effort, you have a full dashboard. You have the insights into your model. What you see on the right now is a set of default charts that were picked from the charts that are by default available in Visuals. And yeah, it kind of depends on what was visible in this 3D viewport, and then it makes a selection of charts. And yeah, I guess the first thing you would want to do is put the colors on the model. So let's say you're interested in this chart down here where it says wall area by type. You can get your insights from the chart, but you can also drop the colors right onto the model. Again, no exports needed. It just automatically connects. And you can gain your insights very, very quickly like this. So this is really useful if you do quantity takeoffs, if you're really actively working on the model, trying to get it clean before a data drop, before you send it over, before you export it to IFC, because yeah, if you think about exporting to IFC, it takes a long time, and then you have some errors, and you open it in another software, you do your quality checks, and by the time it's like an hour passed and you find an error, you have to go back to Revit, find where the error happened, do it all again, and yeah, you wasted a day pretty much by then. And Visuals is trying to solve this issue. And to do that, it gives you a library here on the right with default charts. So let's say you're interested in floors, because we don't see any floors on the charts on the right now. I can go to one of those sections here, and it shows you the library of available floors. For example, let's look at the structural materials here. And yeah, I just clicked on the chart, it brings it to the dashboard. I'll push the colors again into the model, and I can really quickly see, okay, what are my structural materials here? Same is true for all kinds of categories. You can edit all of those charts by just clicking on the chart again. It brings it up into the editor. You can switch the chart types to your liking, and then you can say what categories go into this chart. You can select multiple ones to really have like multi-category schedules, not the fake multi-category schedules that you get in Revit. You can add filters here to really drill down, make it much faster to filter than Revit. And actually, you might be thinking that, okay, colors on the model, sure, Revit, I can also use Revit filters. Yeah, but the major drawback with that is once you have a new value in your parameters, the filter in Revit is always targeting a specific value. So once there's an unexpected thing, it's not being caught by Revit, and Visuals is always automatically updating to all the values. You can change the colors of those charts here. You can even take color schemes from Revit. But I'm not going to go into that much detail here because I actually want to show you one of the new features that I just released. Maybe before I jump into that, quickly on the left-hand side here, you have a quick filter menu where you can just click on one of those values that you see here. In this case, it's showing you all the levels. You can click on one or two of the levels and it filters the dashboard, it filters the view. You can throw any parameter you want in here and get quick access to all the values and slice and dice your model by that. Okay, next thing. So let's really go for the new stuff here, and that is. Oh, so by the way, this is the templates. I just clicked on templates up here. This is the section where you can save configurations for dashboards without the data, just the configuration. You can save it for your entire organization. So if you're a BIM manager, you can pre-make dashboards that define your office standards, save that for everyone to consume. Or if you're just a single user, you have this personal templates here. And I've prepared something. Here's a little fire ratings demo here. And what I want to show is the two charts on the left here. This is the latest edition. These are rule charts. I'll start with the bottom one. So it's this checkbox item here, or this checkmark item. And what it's doing is it's just applying a simple rule. And through feedback, I found that showing everything you have is nice, but sometimes you really want just this check that checks yes or no. Is this right or wrong? And you can set the categories that this rule is for. You can set advanced filters to sort of drill it down even more. And then, yeah, put the rules in here. You can put as many rules as you want. And if you put more rules than one, you get this breakdown like this here, where the first one is all the rules combined. So you can look into the full set of rules, how your model performs on that, but you also get the breakdown for each individual rule. Because sometimes, you can only visualize one thing with a color on a Revit element. And if you have multiple rules, you want to know, okay, which one of the rules actually made my element fail the test? Yeah, and to do that, you get this little breakdown to see. So yeah, and then maybe quickly one of the other new features, which is I think it's it's one that is really needed, and that is anywhere where you have these filters, you can now use regex to filter your filter your data. Regex, for those of you that don't know, is you get these cryptic kind of looking things, these text matching patterns that you can apply against the text. And this is really handy for type name checking. So for example, if you want to find out if all your walls type names start with 2 capital letters and an underscore, you can really nail down those checks and allow for maybe like interior wall IW or exterior wall EW and then an underscore, and then you might expect a number, or you might expect some kind of description for the wall layers. You can really build this into this. And I've added some ChatGPT instructions because no one wants to write regex themselves. You just go to ChatGPT, you copy the instructions into ChatGPT, you apply the rules, and then you can paste the regex into here. And I think, in the interest of time, this is already it, right? I think this is the.
You've got a little longer if you want to do it. Keep going. You've got a few more minutes.
Okay. Sure. So let's talk about 3D rooms then, because I think this is one of the other major features. So if I just turn the colors on and off here to show the full model again, and then I can press this button here, show 3D rooms. And this is also one of the limitations of Revit. It doesn't show you 3D rooms. Visuals can. And now note how currently there's no category rooms in here, but once I now update the data again, and by the way, you can also do auto sync so that it always keeps in sync with your Revit model, but sometimes you want it this way, sometimes in a different way. So I'll press update data. It now takes these boxes are proxy objects, so they represent the actual room. And now I can access the rooms category here. And maybe let's look at the levels to see if there's any rooms that stretch multiple levels or something. This is the default coloring from Revit, which is maybe not as great. I would need to turn on a different visual style for the massing category here. But maybe one important thing to show is that, so currently, if I click on this, it selects all the rooms that are parking on the parking level. And let's actually, because I want to show you how this can react to changes in the Revit model, I'm going to go back to the default library and just pick one that's doing rooms by name, because this is always nice to show this way. Okay, let's wait a bit for Revit to finish thinking. So this one here, for example, let's take the yellow ones, right? The yellow ones are good to see. Which one is it? This one, is it? I don't really like this coloring style. Sorry, let me quickly change this. Manage object styles, and then we go to the massing objects, and here turn off the transparency, because this is always a bit confusing with the default models. Okay, here we go. Good. Okay, now we can see the yellow stuff a bit better. Okay, so when I click one of those boxes, it asks me if I want to select the actual room that is connected to this box. I say yes, and you can see that the Revit panel here shows now that I have a room selected. And if I go here and change this from a pocket park to, I don't know, ADDD, update the name here, and then I update my data. And there we go. Now we have ADDD here. and that is reflected in the Revit model right away. So this way you would go through your model, clean it all up, and there you go. Oh, and by the way, these charts went blank now because Visuals is always taking what you see in the viewport. And you only see rooms now, so that's why all the other charts are blank. If we turn off the colors here, show everything again, and then press update data again, everything else will be filled with data again, which is not happening. There we go. Sometimes my brain is a bit faster. Yeah, and if you like this kind of dashboard, you can always come into the templates and then save this as a template, and then you have it for later, and you can reuse it. That's, oh, you can download charts, you can download the dashboard, export the full dashboard to a PDF, you can download a single chart as an image, and so on and so forth. Yeah, now we're on time, right?
That's really good. That's amazing. It's really, yeah, it's really beautifully presented. I really like the color schemes you got on it. It makes Revit look hugely better than it is in its normal state. So thank you for that. Amazing. Okay, so Yefim, do you want to share your screen and introduce yourself? And
Sure.
we'll go with you.
Hi, so pleasure to be here. Thank you very much also, Iskert, for showing us visuals. It was very cool. So I'm also an architect by education, of course. Computational designer. I'm a BIM manager, and over the last 6 or 7 years, I got into programming, software development, and here to present Pele AI, which uses AI basically to talk to the model and to get things done a bit quicker or more interestingly. So I'll just share my screen for a second, see if it works. Okay. I believe you're seeing the Revit model, right?
Yeah, all
Yes,
good.
we are.
So great. So basically, it's also an add-in. You can just download it, and in the tab, you have a pretty simple interface. It's quite the opposite from Visuals. It's a very simple interface. It's basically meant to be a command line to make things as simple as possible and zero learning curve in order to start using it. So it has, you can query how many prompts you have left and some help and information, put your serial key over there. But basically, it's a text box, which you can use to ask it to do things. Now, the immediate response when you hear something with AI is, can it make me breakfast? And usually, it can't do such complex things, but it can do a lot of useful things, which I want to show some of them right now. One of them, I think, maybe even in Visuals, you can do that. I'm not exactly sure. But for example, if you want to query some specific parameters across, I don't know, a facade or curtain panels, for example, I've prepared some of the prompts so that I don't have to type them all out. But let's say that I just want to type here this sentence, right? So select all the spandrel curtain panels that have an area smaller than 2.5 meters. You don't want to start sifting through schedules, or you don't want to start doing anything except just ask that question. And it might disappoint us a few times, but hopefully this will work. And let's see what happens. It should find, basically, according to that query, all the spandrel curtain panels that are here. Maybe I think that I don't have any spandrel curtains here. Okay, 81 spandrel panels with area less than 2.5 meters. So they're here. So if you couldn't see them visually, right, or you didn't want to start constructing schedules and you just want to see, okay, where are these panels, and maybe I want to increase them or decrease them or change their type or so on, you can find them. So that's one example. Another example is you might want to, let's go to a floor plan. You might want to add some project parameters to doors. So, and all the prompts that I'm writing here, by the way, are I typed them out before, so I don't have to type them out here and waste time on that. So let's try to create a project instance parameter of a text type called param x for the door category. Okay. And I'm guessing you can also make multiples. I haven't tried that, but I guess you can make a few of them together. Door parameter added successfully. Okay, so if we go to project parameters, there it is, param x. If we edit it, let's see. So it's the door category. It's a text data type. So it's basically creating what we wanted to do. Let's go to some more. Okay, so here is another example, which is a bit more graphics in nature. Let's see. Okay, so if we want to change the material of all the brown colored floors here, all of the floors except one is the same type. Let's say we want to change it and want to change the floor material of this type to ceramic tile for the finished layer. So you don't have to go into the type, into the materials, into the specific structure layer, you know, and so on. So let's see, we can change all of that.
Just while it's doing that, when you shared your screen a moment, so we're not seeing the pop-up window from Revit.
Oh, aren't you? Okay.
Because you're sharing.
It's basically it's just a success message saying, you know, I selected 81 panels. I created the parameter. It's just kind of telling you some feedback.
Yeah, that's fine.
It asked me to select some floors, so I guess it didn't know which one I was talking about because I said this type and it didn't know which type I'm talking about. So I guess I can just select one of them, and it's going to know that it's this type. So it's if you asked it, you know, change this door and you don't select any of the doors, it's not going to know what you want from it. So it does need a bit of thinking to understand how to speak to it. Okay, and it's throwing me a bit of errors right now, which I'm very sad you can't see that. Probably it's the studio screen sharing feature. But basically there's a mechanism where now it failed to create it, and it also failed to create it again. If it fails to create it, if it didn't understand anything or it couldn't do anything, just like GPT sometimes fails to understand what you want from it and so on, and you have to keep conversing with it. So it will tell you that it failed. It's going to try one more time to figure out from what it failed, like how to correct itself, but it's not infinite, right? So you get a chance to basically you have to correct your prompt or check your specificity of your prompt again. Okay, let's try another thing. We have columns here, and let's say we want to split them by the level elements. So let's just say split columns by levels. Let's see what happens. Again, the pop-ups that it's giving me is just confirmation that it succeeded. While it's doing that, I'll tell you there's a YouTube channel full of examples and videos, short videos of exemplifying different use cases, and you can see it there. So completed, created 9 new column segments. Okay, so there we go. We have the columns split according to level, which is pretty cool. Let's try something else. Okay. Let's say I want to paint all inner walls in blue and outer walls in red. It doesn't have to be exact, but just to make it cleaner. So some filters, some graphic overrides. I think you can also, in most cases, if you specify if you want to filter or you want just a graphic override in this view, then it will adhere to that instruction. So that's also something you can do here. And I don't know, let's say in this view, create a grid. Let's say, create a 4x4 grid starting from coordinates 200, 100, with 3 meters between grids. Let's see if that works. just ballpark guessing what the instruction should be. Although it can be more specific. If it fails, then maybe something more specific would work. Okay, so create a 4x4 grid system with 3 meters spacing, and I'm sure the coordinate is probably the one I said. So that's also very fun. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of other things you can do, like, I don't know, renumber all sheets from 300 to onwards. Let's see if that changes. So there's a lot of manipulation that you can do, especially with graphics, with sheet naming, with view naming, creating views. Okay, it didn't understand what I wanted from it. It wanted to renumber the sheets that are 300 onward. So renumber all sheets so that they all start with 3. I don't know. Let's see what that does. Maybe it's going to do 3, 4, 5. Just ballpark, I'm guessing here. Okay. 301, 302, 3. Okay, so that's pretty good. Let's try one last thing, because I think those are most of the examples that I have, unless you guys want to try something. Let's say create for each level a 3D scope box view where the scope box bottom and top are from the level minus 30 centimeters, and the top is the level plus 1.2 meters. So it's going to create like a scope box per level, right? That's what we like to do sometimes. Let's see if that works. Okay, cool. Level 0, level 1, level 2. Now it's scope boxing the level element itself also. That's why the scope box is so big. But that's quite successful, I guess. So that's more or less the scope of it, and it's also meant to basically quicken a lot of things that might take you a lot more clicks, and also it's kind of a more modest, kind of a really minified and modest GPT kind of interface for Revit. I guess that's all.
That's really good, really good. Yeah, that's incredibly powerful. That's really good. Thank you for that. That's really cool. I've got lots of questions, so we'll come back to that in a minute. Nick, do you want to jump in and do an intro and show us D.TO?
Just share that screen real quick.
Yeah.
Everyone see the Revit. Cool.
Yeah, really good.
Thank you, Alistair, for having me on. That's really cool stuff. Previous presenters, something that would have been valuable to me in my career early on. But so my background is in BIM management, architectural design. Prior to joining D.TO, I'm director of content development here, and D.TO was born from the pain points of design development and construction documentation. So the platform itself is a navigator for architects through those 2 phases of the project. So we start coming out of schematic design, we're starting to cartoon out our drawing set, we start cutting out sections, and here's the starting point for D.TO. We create a project, so we're a web-based platform, but also a plugin for Revit. It's this web-based hosted in Revit framework. We create a project, and then what we need to do is create design sessions. So this is the beginning of that navigation, helping you navigate through these phases. So we streamline the cartooning of that drawing set using smart callout. It understands your building section and then places those detailed callouts where we've trained the AI to understand those transitions and where you would need to actually develop details. So just to show you that again, another different section. And then from here, we need to start developing each one of these callouts, the schematic design starting point in Revit. So we create a design session, which is that center point of the workflow. We link to that view, and then we go to that next step. You can manually classify the type of detail that you're working on so that we can understand and provide you a solution. Or you can run Smart Classification, which is another AI agent that's looking at the two or more system families, and then suggesting a condition from our catalog. And then looks at the exterior wall, understands that it's a rain screen on metal framing, and then looks at that roof and also suggests those layers there. So then we can review those selections or add selections and then create that design session. And then here, our first feature is interactive design guidance. So we're providing a detail with one solution, highlighting high performance building envelope principles. So like, what is continuous insulation? Why is continuous insulation important? Air vapor barrier, continuous, why is that important? And then also components like this green roof that we selected here, and just more in-depth design guidance in bringing, especially junior architects, their knowledge to a higher level of understanding, which will provide better and more enhanced detailing workflows in your firm. So just to show you that sequence again and how easy it is, you go back to that section and say you want to start working on this detail, create that design session. Next step, again, we're just looking at what the two system families are. So here it's an opening system, head detail, rain screen, metal framing, curtain wall system, and then we can create that design guidance. And here again, giving you well-rounded design guidance that's based on the detail itself and bringing that mentoring capability, mentoring within the technology. So say if you want to start developing these details within Revit, you can click on that detail, created that design session. You can use our view fetcher, quickly find that view, and then it's covered by and then download. We offer either DWG or as a Revit import. Revit 2023 is the earliest version that we offer in the platform. And what this does is bringing all detail components. So again, that view fetcher really saves a lot of time of navigating during this process. Aligning your 2D components over your 3D, or bring it in as a drafting view and just referencing that. It's another option, but everything comes componentized. So as you bring it in, you can manipulate, and then we use CSI division to then help actually keynote this system here. So just to show you another design session. Do the same building section. We create that design session, link to active view, run that smart classification. And then create that design session. So that's really the core of the DTO workflow, is creating these design sessions, having it be a navigator. We do have individual BIM library. So say if you're working on this detail and you needed horizontal thermal spacers rather than the vertical ones, our BIM library has all these individual components here where you can use that interactive diagram, click, and then it's just a click and place into the model itself. And then we also have company library asset management, which I don't think I'll have time to get into that workflow. So if anybody on the call wants to learn more about this, I'll just show you here. When you upload to the company library to a certain specification, you can also get your company library details. And this is a place where you can add design guidance, mentoring specific to your firm, and the detail that's specific to your firm for them to access. So it's no more searching, no more time searching. It's just really having everything you need as you're detailing, where the time-consuming process of detailing is going to find everything you need to put it together. And D.TO is helping you navigate through that. So thank you. Thank you all.
Really good. Really, really good. Amazing. Okay. So I'm going to pass that over to Diana, Leo, and Arvind. If you've got questions and queries, then please ask away.
Yeah, I don't mind kicking it off. I mean, great presentations. I must admit, I've not seen anything so far from like the D.TO AC. Like, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I do the least, or I hated doing detailing. So to have a tool that can, you know, help you with that, that's great. But I'm going to come back to you. So I'm going to ask starting with the first, is it visuals? So I've used PyRevit quite a bit, and I've seen some similarities in terms of being able to edit the visuals of things, like being able to create an alternative to like filters and stuff. But I think the uniqueness of your tool is you can visualize with the charts and things like that. But I did notice that you're using temporary view properties to apply those filters, and well, I call them filters, but actually, is this applying based on an object override in viewport? If you can let me know that, and then I'll follow up with the second part.
Yeah, it's really simple. It's the same as if you would do right-click, override element in view, because with HDM we found that adding a ton of filters to the model would slow down the model at some point because they're always recalculating. And with this method, you can offload the heavy calculations into a modern tech stack in the browser.
I get that, but when you're working on a package and you have like 50 different sheets, and we use templates and we use filters within these templates, which means that it's automatically doing that for all the views for you. So I mean, part of the stuff that we train our the architects in our company is to not use override in viewport, because it's really difficult what's actually driving that change within the view, and not many people will right click and actually check whether it's been overridden. And that's one of the things that is also present in PyRevit, is that it does it per viewport. So I can see the benefit of working on individual views where you're just doing some testing or visual things, but when it is being used on actual packages, filters, as much as we hate them, they're really smart in that you can even pick up information from linked models, and if we want to color certain things based on a fire rating or whatever, we can do that. So I think if I'm being completely honest, something that would be great for architects is a tool that allows to create the filters for you, and actually it's present within the view template, because that's how architects typically work. It's not many people that would right click and override in viewport. I think I've only done that 2 or 3 times in my entire way of working in Revit, because I've been told off early in my career not to do that, because it's great visually to begin with, but ultimately you'll be using filters. So if there is a way to kind of push that to create the filters for you, that would be incredible, because I know it weighs on the model, but ultimately they're useful and for a reason, I think.
I think, yeah, there's 2 aspects to this. One is definitely, I'm already looking into making these overrides last in the model. The workflow that I'm proposing here is maybe a bit different. Maybe I didn't make this clear enough. What I hear from your explanation is you are looking for something that is that stays in the model and that is always there. This solution presented here is sort of this quick insight. It's instant and temporary. And currently it's not meant to stay in the model. But I totally see your point that it would be really nice if there was a button like, okay, let's create a view template from this and then manage the filters externally, because updating the filters, when
Yeah.
you're missing a value, then it doesn't pick it up in the filter.
No, I can certainly see how it's beneficial for this temporary view, but often the people who you're presenting to are not sat next to you. You're going to be presenting at a meeting or something where you want to at least temporarily apply those changes and present some of these things, but ultimately you would be using templates and you would be using views, and I think it would be really, really amazing, which you might have not touched, you might have not shown. I know you touched a little bit at the end, is to add some of these graphs as views or as images onto the sheets, because then you'll have your view, which will be saved, and then you have the charts. And one more thing is to do with the what's it called? The temporary view override, the temporary view properties. There are a lot of issues with it, and it's something that I spoke to Autodesk about it. Sometimes when you forget to restore view overrides and you synchronize, sometimes your view shifts in the sheet and goes far away. And this is something to do with weird scaling thing. So generally, temporary view properties are great, but like it's not the kind of thing that would be used heavily unless you are, as you said, temporarily looking at things and helping you design, which I think has a great value in itself. I'm just being sort of giving the expectations of what we typically would use it.
Yeah, thanks.
I think, Diana, you bring up a really good point. I was also a little bit confused about the exact workflow with visuals. First of all, by the way, a beautiful like application there. I was really just mesmerized by the colors and just how minimalist it looked.
Yeah, I echo that.
So I understand that what you've tried to create is a QA/QC sort of tool, which you use as a temporary filter for your models to see whether you might be missing a door that needs to be fire rated, but it's not, let's say, as you were showing. But having it persist in some sense would really help. Just having people who may not be using visuals in their workflow, but PMs or others who don't work in Revit see what might be what might be a potential error or a RFI in the future for the project. So you can have some sort of checklist, like you were mentioning before, like rule-based checklists that you just have for each project, and give that to a PM to go through their own sort of review of the model.
That's an interesting thought. So you would expect that the project manager could use or gain these insights without ever touching Revit, actually. So you would kind of send them a dashboard link, and they have the 3D model, they have the visualizations, and they can look through
Kind of
it.
like Speckle. There's a balance. Once you take it off Revit and put it in the cloud, you have a lot of competition there. So I think that the uniqueness about what you have is that it's actually within Revit. But yeah, I think that there's great use cases in both places, but choose your market, I guess.
I might go into this data drop thing in the future. It's in the pipeline because I've heard this quite a bit.
Eska, I was going to ask you a couple of IT questions. One of them around your security model, just as kind of Dana was just referencing. I thought one of the great things about the product is that you're keeping the whole thing on-prem. You're not sharing that data externally, which I thought was a real win. And then I was going to just quickly ask you about your licensing. I was looking at your Teams offering, where you can have like licensing concurrently for the practice, a floating license. And are you kind of using like FlexLM to deliver that on-prem?
No, it's fully web-based.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the web application has a mechanism with like the authentications in the background.
Okay.
But the data is all staying local because it's using a local connection between the Revit model and the website front end.
Great.
And then the templates, they go onto the cloud because you want to be able to access them wherever you log into Visuals, but they don't hold any data.
Yeah.
So I think there's no GDPR concern there.
Right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next victim.
Sorry, Alistair, did you want to?
No, carry on.
So is it Pele AI? Am I Pele or
Pele.
Pele, sorry. So that having been to the Next Dev, you have a lot of competition out there. And I must say, there's a balance between having a really simplified UI and having, you know, slight more control. I think currently, obviously, it's great to have something so simple because that's what people are used to. ChatGPT, write something, get your response. But one huge thing about ChatGPT and what a lot of people I'm sure like about it is that you have the history. And I think I'm struggling to understand how this can be very useful when you can't build on the things that you've asked because you might not want to repeat the complete command. Also, I think I've seen some great examples from other companies. I can't remember the names, I'm not going to mention, but the idea to be able to save a prompt or something that you repeatedly do, you might want to save it as a button, and then you want to share those buttons with different projects, or you might want to share it with your team, or you might, as in my role, we might want to deploy it for everybody in the company who might be using that. So I think there are levels to it and having it simplified, but I think the option on the ability to dive way deeper if the user chooses to, I think it's so important because for us users, like for me and my people on my team, we might want to configure a lot of things in the background, and we would appreciate having that ability to do so. At the moment, it seems to be only to the quick ChatGPT within it, but actually not really, because it doesn't give you all the options to be able to use it that way. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get it, and definitely some of the limitations I ran into along the way are part of what you mentioned. I will say that it does save the prompts that you use in a log file. It's in the help and information. You can see.
Oh, so it'd be easy to hook it back in and then.
So you do have a text file where you can copy paste the last prompt or prompt from yesterday. It does not keep a history. I think that most of the reason why, for now at least, I chose to avoid that is A, costs, and B, it requires me to save more of the user's data online. And I'm guessing I'm going to hit Leo's question on that, is none of your model data leaves Revit. The only thing that gets sent back is the prompt itself and some user data, the username and so on for authentication. So I guess that's the reason why. And I'm not saying it's not a drawback, right? It's definitely something that you want to build on and so on. Yeah, so I guess that's my answer to that.
Kind of piggybacking on Diana's thing, so it looks like you kind of prompt and it does a single action. Is it possible for it to do a multi-step workflow where, for example, if you were to prompt, I don't know, can you prepare this model for a DD set or something like that's a huge prompt, obviously, but can it figure out those step-by-step processes that need to be considered? I mean, maybe it can't right now, but do you think that it possibly could turn into something like that, where it's a technician for you that you prompt a larger workflow to?
Yeah, definitely. It's a good question. I think, actually, I want to just, before I answer that comment for a second about Diana's comment about visuals before, I think that in order to persist things, a user can use visuals and Pele together and explore the model with visuals and then create like 10 filters according to color that they want or something with Pele, because if you instruct it to create colored filter, a different color for each wall type, it will do it. So that you can kind of combine these two tools together, which I thought was cool. But yeah, the complexity is the challenge because the main barrier in that is the intent. far more often a user can't even explain what their workflow is. And even if they could write it down, it would be very, very long and complex. So the context of the prompt itself is, I think, relatively limited. And what it can do is more or less on the scale of what I showed. You can try to test it out with more complex things, but once it reaches a certain threshold of complexity in terms of like, very multiple complex steps in the model, it will probably fail. And especially so if it's not given very, very clear instructions. I think that limitation comes also from the fact that in order to do so, it will be very, very costly. And also because Revit API itself is not the purest of animals. So there's some complexity there. But yeah, definitely a limitation, I guess, which I'm aware of.
Just a quick background on what you're creating. So is this something similar to is it an RAG that I've heard of before, where it's an LLM model that creates the code for you within the Revit API context and compiles it as a plugin or as an add-in or a real-time compiler through
Revit? That's the gist of it. Okay. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, Finn, my only question, mate, was because everyone, Avinder and Daniel has already covered it, but I was just wondering about deployment for enterprise. Like, if we had to centrally manage deployment, could we send this out to all endpoints like MSI in some way, or is it just available in the Autodesk App Store at the moment?
Right now, it's only in the App Store.
Okay.
Yeah, only basically what you saw.
Okay. All right. That's good. Thank you.
I have a question for Nick. I really like the tool. I think it would be quite interesting to test out. I am curious, you mentioned AI very quickly and briefly at the beginning. I'm wondering how AI is being used in this tool specifically. If you can just shed a bit of light on that.
Yeah, definitely. So we've trained our model internally with a few different AI models. One that recognizes the relationship between those system families by image base, and then matches it to a condition within our catalog. And then also goes into the function, materiality, and layering system of each system family. And because we've trained it internally, like you have finish layer, air layer, insulation, air vapor barrier, chances are it's a rain screen system kind of thing. So everything is trained off internal data, and we're not training off any user data to enhance our AI classification.
So that leads to my next question. What if we want to train it on internal data, but keep that? Because, for example, in my previous company, we worked on a lot of bespoke facade systems for performing arts and theatre, and you would often have a very unique system, but often that system can be used on multiple different projects, and we would like to perhaps train it on that specific type of build-up, but then we want to deploy it and be able to share. I know you mentioned briefly about developing a project catalog or something that's more personal to that company. So is there a possibility for that?
Yeah, so you can classify, and we have like a bunch of different finish options, a bunch of different structural options for inner and outer modules. If one doesn't exist within the platform, we can add that, and then you can classify that detail or that asset to that specific system. But we don't offer currently training off your internal company library to enhance the AI with your internal assets. That's something that I think is in the roadmap for future years to come, where you'll actually be able to train our AI based on your data only for internal use, because our mentality is we want to keep everything private to your firm. And
Yeah, and just to confirm, so let's say I have a 150 mil wide, I don't know, concrete wall, and you have a detail that is to do with that build-up, but actually your detail is 200 mil. Does it change that 250, or does it then give you the original detail?
It gives you the original detail, and our details from our catalog also do that. We don't stretch and pull components based on the thickness of your three-dimensional. What we do is give you a starting point with that standard wall depth, and then you'd manipulate per project. Let's say if you manipulated that for that project and you know that you have that the second option, again, you can upload that back to the company library.
Okay.
Use naming convention to now you have 1.5 mil and 2 mil options within your library.
Yeah, it's interesting because there are some tools that allow you to upload or save some of these details for you, but I think the edge here is that you have the AI capabilities. But so AI is it still basically doing the indexing thing where it's looking at what's there and then picking up something that's been saved look, you know, in your end? I think it'll be really interesting to start seeing how it can amend that detail based on the input, because that's where AI is doing AI, you know, rather than just the sort of indexing. It's still really useful, but I'm just sort of wishful thinking here.
Yeah, and that's, you know, you're not the first person to come up with that question. Actually, I think probably 90% of the people that we show the platform to have that question. And I think you said it before, it's not the most, it's not the most fun part for people of architecture, this detailing process. And if we can have things update based on that, it would remove this process. But by having that, will we be eliminating architecture, like the architect's role in making sure this detail is constructed correctly, kind of thing? And if everything's automatic and you never look at it, is it making
yeah,
that's just a sick theory.
And I think it would be great that when doing detailing is to keep, like, not to draw over with detail items over walls and for example floors and things like that, because as you change the project and update certain things, the core elements we don't want to be drawing over. We want to draw over maybe just the connections. So maybe establishing where do we use detail items and where do we actually keep the original structure that we have. So that's why detailing is difficult for a reason, because it is so specific based on a, you know, very specific scenario, build up and requirements, and that not even touching on regulations. Is this based in training on UK data? Is it? Probably not, but like, yeah, a lot of facets that come with it to actually make it really hit because the problem with AI and the problem with these like predefined elements is that you often have to go back and forth to get what you want, and often at the end it's just easier just to go in there and do it. So I'd be interested to test out and see how it actually works with very specific you know, junctions and very specific case scenarios. So especially curtain wall systems, how does it work with that?
I definitely have many curtain wall details, curtain wall systems,
Yeah.
But we also have a free trial version. It's not time-based. It's based on like you can, it's 2 DTO projects, 3 design sessions, 10 downloads, so that you definitely enough to play around with the platform to get used to it, and then yeah.
Nice, thank you.
Diana, these are just amazing questions. You're literally taking away all
Sorry,
my
I kind of forgot.
No, like it's, you know, you've asked everything that I was thinking about, pretty much. My question to you, Nick, is, so what does the vetting process look like for these details? Because I mean, like Diana mentioned, these are so context specific, and not just the context of the building or that specific region, but also just codes and, you know, the specific, you know, area you're in, climate, you know, all of that. Does it include any regional building code packages or something that we can download? for North America based, or performance requirements, like if it's a LEED building versus if it needs to meet IECC 2021 stretch code or something.
Yeah. So we don't have specific code that you could set to it, but we do base everything off the IECC 2021 and IPC 2021, and we reference those. So as far as like custom design guidance, you can embed that into your actual company library details. So if there's any specific code requirements for, say, curtain walls at foundation, then you can add that information into the detail as you're uploading it. As far as climate zone, for US climate zone, when you start a new project, you're selecting the climate zone and construction type for that project. And within that design guidance, we have links to IBC, but also just generally an overview of, say, if you're in climate zone 3, you don't necessarily need to have below grade insulation. So we have it dashed in our diagram and a design guidance saying that it's not required, but it is recommended for high performance building envelope kind of thing.
So are you suggesting with D.TO that firms use the standards that you're providing as a starting point, and then modify them based on the context? And if let's say I'm a new architecture firm and I don't have any of my firm standards, could I grab your standards and actually start manipulating them and put them back into D.TO to serve my conditions? Yeah, exactly. A lot of our, not a lot, well, I would say there's a large amount of our users that are using D.TO's assets as the starting point for their company library. Not even just new firms, like a firm that has been established who has thousands of details, but they all need to be gone through and updated and componentized and standardized. Instead of going through that process, just starting from scratch using D.TO's assets as a starting point. And then, of course, bringing those in, manipulating, using the individual components to make your own details, and then uploading that back as that firm. Like the D.TO started the detail, but your firm made it specific to their standardization or buildability. That's really cool. We do use some other library or content management software, but I think the strength of D.TO is in it's in the context that it provides, and also it's able to localize what detail you might be looking for based on the section. Is that correct? Yeah, section and plan too. So we offer plan details as well, and we also have interior details for you to classify your interior library as well. So, and constantly expanding our library and our offering as well. Thank you.
I think this gives me just a reminder. I've spoken to someone in NextDev from Autodesk Informed Design, which I'm not too aware of, but I think it's quite a new, correct me if I'm not wrong, quite a new system, but they work with a lot of manufacturers' information where the manufacturer will upload their data set onto this interface, and then you then download various different information, whether it's stairs or pre-built cabins and things, I don't know, things like that. I feel like in collaboration with them, your product can be quite great to start hitting at different levels, because the demo that I saw had a lot of intricate details, like the screws and the like really zoomed in detail. And then of course, when you cut a section through it, it'll probably not have as much detail, or maybe it does. So I think it'll be maybe perhaps quite useful to see how these two can coincide with each other, because I think having a pre-uploaded data set might be useful for certain type of industries, certain type of projects that have more of a repeatable design, and they don't want to spend too much. It's all about efficiency and time and cost, and they just want to use whatever can get them there. I think that could be quite useful. It's probably more fitting in that area rather than bespoke design that might require more intricate and very specific detail. So this is just, again, I've not tested this tool, but it gave me the reminder that perhaps they can work alongside each other.
And one thing I didn't show in the demo is the products tab. We do have products, and at the end of this month, we'll be releasing our beta version for that, which is, say if you're looking for a specific curtain wall manufacturer or rain screen manufacturer, you click on the interactive diagram and isolate and then search for products. So you'll get all rain screen. And then if you could set that as basis of design and receive the specific reference detail and components needed to execute that drawing. Like if you go to a manufacturer and try to find that detail, it could be going through 300, 400 details. But if we know exactly the detail you're working on, we can provide that reference detail from the manufacturer.
Nice.
Amazing. Okay, that's been really, really good, and yeah, I appreciate all your time going through that. That's really great in terms of everyone who's asked questions and all of you presenting today. I'm going to draw it to a close. We've just gone over an hour, but really thorough review and assessment of those tools. It's really excellent, and I think one of the key things for me is actually how they can all combine together to save time in Revit and actually provide really great efficiency savings and increase. We know that Revit is fairly old, and it needs to be augmented with better plugins to make it work the way that we want it to in a modern way. And you've demonstrated that you've kind of taken that sort of that piece of software and augmented it with these new elements to it to actually make it much more effective and faster and more usable. Because essentially Autodesk is not doing that with that product. So this is essential work that's needed now with all these Revit plugins to keep it moving forward. All of the different talks, we've all talked about AI in different ways as well, which I think is really interesting. And then how that is kind of linked in, and how it's, I'm going to say, kind of controlled AI in the sense that it's not like, it does this, and then you just get, maybe suboptimal results back from it. I think it's about the controllability of that is really important from a user perspective, to say, I want it to do this, and it does what you ask it to. So I think that's really excellent. And also, you've all talked about security and how people's data is really important. And that's crucial, isn't it? In terms of we don't want office information, which is under non-disclosure agreements or privileged or confidential, to be going out to environments where anyone can access that. I think that's really important. And also in terms of personal data as well, we can all see that it's really important to protect that. So that it's really great to see all of you kind of considering that as one of the key things within what you're doing. So I'm going to draw us to a close, but thank you very much, Iskert, Yafim and Nick, for presenting. That's really excellent. Thank you, Dana, for being our special guest. That's very cool.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. No, fantastic. And obviously we'll be doing more of these as we move forward, and it'd be great to have you back at another time. And then Arvinder and Leo, thank you very much for your contributions.
You're welcome.
I will end this now, and we can catch up after this session if you want to. Just stay online, or I'm happy if you want to finish up and have a break. So that's been a long day. And Diana, we've kept you in the office much later than we probably should have.
Hopefully I won't have to lock up.
Thanks very much, everyone, and see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.